Okay, today the demonstration is for millet pizza. So what I am doing is I'm adding jowar flour, half a cup. You could use any millet flour, but hard millets work good for the pizza. So I just added half a cup of jowar flour. Half a cup of ragi. Best to make the flours yourself at home, but then I have no time. I'm just using the store-bought one. This is ragi, half a cup, and a quarter cup of either a bajra or buckwheat. I prefer buckwheat, so I'm using buckwheat. You could use bajra also, or just to do with 2 millets. Increase the quantity. This will make 2 normal sized pizzas. You can't eat too much of a millet based pizza because it's pretty heavy on the stomach because of the fiber content. So I'm just mixing this. I forgot to get the salt. Let me go get the salt. Right. I'm adding a bit of unrefined salt. Some dates powder, karik powder, because you need a little bit of sweetness to activate the yeast. Now, I'm not going to use yeast here. If you're using yeast, for this quantity, use quarter teaspoon of yeast in about half a cup of warm water and a little bit of sugar, and keep it for some time until it froths nicely, to bubble up, and then add it to this flour. Now today I am not using yeast, so I'm using the sourdough discard, which has some rice in it, so I don't need yeast also for this recipe. Now what I am going to do is, this recipe calls for some butter. Now, because I am a whole food plant-based eater, I am not adding butter. Instead, I am using what is called the coconut butter. I normally have loads of these at home. So, I make them by blending the desiccated coconut. So, I'm adding a wee bit of that. So again, if you're using yeast, use for this quantity, use about quarter teaspoon of, or 3/4 teaspoon of yeast, instant yeast. Put it in about half a cup of warm water and a little bit of sugar, and keep it aside for 10 minutes, and then add it to the flour mix. Because I am not using that, I'm going to go ahead with the discard. Now I have this jowar sourdough starter that I made, so I'm going to add a bit of that discard to this. This is my yeast. Now this has life. I can get the smell, the sour smell. I'm not going to be using water. Instead, I'm using some beetroot, pureed beetroot, steamed beetroot with the skin. I pureed it. You can use spinach puree or pumpkin. I had only beetroot at home, so I'm using beetroot. Adjust, or you can add a little more water if you want, if you think you need it. For me, I think the puree would be enough, so I'm just going to stop for this. So knead it well. When you're using the flour, just ensure that you're using a good quality one. I buy mine mostly from Organic, Pure and Sure, so, or from Terra, their own home brand. So just ensure that you're using a good quality one. Otherwise, you will not get the required, kind of taste or the texture. Especially with millets, if the brand is not good, the quality of the millet has been poor, then the product will not be good. So I think it can do with a little more water. Instead, I'm going to add the discard. Trust me, this coconut butter gives you a better flavor than the real butter. Of course, this is also real butter, but then the dairy butter tastes better. It gives an excellent flavor and takes away that muddy flavor of millets. Ragi and all have a muddy flavor. So I'm going to knead this dough for about 10 minutes. Some exercise for my biceps. And then I'm going to cover this and leave it to rest for about 45 minutes to an hour. Don't expect too much of a rise because it will not rise like a maida or a wheat pizza. There will be a little increase in size. It can get a little, kind of loose and airy, but I don't think it will get the same rise as one with a glutinous thing. So because there is no gluten also in this, I have to really knead it. So I'm going to do this for the next 8 to 10 minutes. Highly therapeutic. So we'll continue in the next one.